The darkness of the Virginia back road was so thick that only the bus headlights cut through the blackness. 38 passengers were aboard, mostly couples, and an eerie tension filled the air. Some were listening to music, trying to distract themselves, while others stared blankly out of the windows. The driver, an experienced man, glanced at the road with unease, though he tried to remain calm. The night air smelled strange, like wet soil mixed with a faint metallic tang, as if blood had seeped into the ground. Suddenly, the bus jolted violently, and the engine cut out. The driver tried to start it again, but it remained lifeless. "Looks like we're staying here for the night," he said, his voice low but firm. A hush fell over the passengers. Couples grasped each other's hands tightly, while some people whispered in fear. Jason and Emily were the first to speak. Emily's voice trembled. "It's so dark, and this place feels abandoned." Jason squeezed her hand and whispered, "We're safe, just for tonight." But everyone felt the tension crawling beneath those words. Outside, a thin mist settled over the forest, and the trees swayed as if alive. A soft rustling reached their ears. Some tried to rationalize it. "It's just the wind." But no one believed it. The driver grabbed his flashlight and stepped out to inspect. From the edge of the trees, something moved, a thin shadow with unnaturally long limbs, its glowing eyes fixed on them. Jason screamed, "What is that?" The figure shimmered, almost unreal, disappearing and reappearing among the trees. Inside, the passengers were panicking. Couples held each other tightly, some crouching on the floor. Emily whispered to Alice, "I don't like this place. It's wrong." Alice squeezed her hand in response, while Ryan's face mirrored pure fear. The army men on board immediately formed a plan. Captain Mark commanded, "Everyone stays on the bus. We'll assess the situation first." But even as he spoke, the forest seemed to thrum with something alive. The first encounter happened quickly. Claire and Daniel saw the shadow emerge from between the trees. It stretched out long claw-like arms, brushing against Claire's shoulder. She screamed and fell. Daniel tried to grab her, but her skin went black and cold at the touch. Her eyes widened in frozen terror, and her breathing stopped. Jason raised his flashlight again, but the shadow dissolved into the woods. Emily's face had turned pale. "It's not human. It's something else," Jason whispered, shaking. The army men formed a perimeter, preparing to protect the passengers. Captain Mark shouted, "Pack on the bus. We need a strategy." But the engine refused to start. Then a high-pitched scream echoed from inside. Someone had been touched, someone inside. Captain Mark ran, only to see a dark mass moving across the floor, as if trying to pull someone into the ground. The night deepened. Shadows now seemed alive, reaching through the bus doors and windows. The army men stood firm, their rifles ready, shielding each couple with every ounce of their courage. Captain Mark ordered, "Move to the rear exit. Cover each other. This is the only chance." Ryan and Alice started running, the shadow swirling behind them. The bus driver tried the engine again, but it remained dead. A soldier, David, was caught by the shadow and vanished after a scream. The army men fired their weapons, but bullets seemed to pass through the darkness. The shadow had glowing, clock-like eyes that followed each soldier. Alice and Ryan struggled through the rear doors. The shadow's long limbs stretched toward them, attempting to grab, to pull them back. The army men formed a protective barrier, risking their lives to ensure the couple reached safety. Sophie and Emily were trapped next. They screamed as the shadow reached them. Their hands turned icy and blue, as if the forest itself was stealing their life force. Ryan and Alice, moving faster, barely avoided the grasp of the moving darkness. Captain Mark shouted, "Keep moving! Do not stop!" Every step was a fight against a force beyond understanding. The air was thick, heavy, suffocating, as if something unseen pressed against their lungs. David's sacrifice delayed the shadow for a moment, allowing Ryan and Alice to reach the rear exit. The driver stayed close, ready to restart the engine the moment they reached the edge. The shadows recoiled slightly, almost cautious, as if aware that survival might slip from their grasp. Suddenly, Claire collapsed after the shadow touched her. Her nails were blackened, her face frozen in terror. The army men tried to pull her back, but she began to vanish, leaving only clothes behind. Each scream seemed to echo endlessly, absorbed by the forest. The bus driver shouted, "Everyone stay calm! Move!" The army men pushed back against the shadows, their rifles blazing, though nothing seemed to harm them. Each soldier risked their life, knowing this night might be their last. Ryan grabbed Alice's hand and ran. The shadows swirled around them, moving impossibly fast. Trees twisted, the forest itself seemed alive. Every step was a gamble, every breath a struggle. Finally, Ryan and Alice reached the rear of the bus. The shadows lunged, but the army men formed a last barricade. Captain Mark, Alex, and another soldier exposed themselves to distract the darkness. The shadows immediately targeted them. Their screams were cut short as they vanished into the night. Ryan, Alice, and the bus driver finally reached the forest edge. The shadows, for the first time, vanished as if they had never existed. The bus remained still, its engine lifeless, but at least their lives were spared. Inside, the surviving passengers were in shock. Couples huddled together, trembling. The night's horrors were still vivid in every mind. Ryan and Alice held each other tightly, unable to speak. The bus driver restarted the engine, and they drove off, leaving the forest and its terrors behind. By dawn, the FBI arrived, investigating the abandoned village and surrounding forest. Helicopters scanned the area, but no evidence remained. No footprints, no blood, only a broken bus and empty silence. The case was baffling, unsolved, officially closed due to lack of proof. Ryan's interview later went viral. Tears filled his eyes as he spoke, voice trembling. That night, the forest, the shadows, we saw everything. The army men, they gave their lives to save us. Captain Mark, Alex, and the other soldier, they sacrificed themselves. Without them, we wouldn't be here. Alice held his hand, silently weeping. The weight of their experience carried into the audience's minds, the terror tangible even on screen. The bus driver also shared his account. We managed to restart the engine and get out, but I still feel it. Something is still there in the forest. The FBI found no proof, but I know what I saw. Ryan added, "Every night I wonder, are they still there? Will they ever return? The bravery of the army men saved us, but the horror, it never leaves." In the final scene, Ryan and Alice sat together, watching the sunrise over the forest. The horrors of the night, long shadows, stretching limbs, and fear still lingered in their eyes. The screen faded to black, but the audience could feel the terror, the night alive in their imagination. The story ended, but the fear remained, permanent and haunting. Ryan and Alice survived, but their lives, their minds, had been irreversibly marked by the horrors of that Virginia night.